Hello, my name is Brianna Gross, and today we are going to go over my ecosystem project. Firstly, I want to say please excuse my voice. I have been sick, and it has affected my speaking, so please excuse that. But continuing on, I have chosen the desert as my ecosystem. Here we have our table of contents, which is just the main points that we're going to be going over today. Firstly, we have the national parks and that are protecting the desert ecosystems, the biotic and abiotic factors, the plants and animals living in the desert ecosystems, abiotic ecosystem factors, and the environmental concerns of the park. For the national parks, I found a few different ones in the U.S. territories with a desert ecosystem located within them. The Grapevine Mesa Joshua Tree National Park in Arizona and the Anza Borrego Desert State Park in California were two popular locations that I found. But today we will specifically be talking about the Valley of Fire National State Park located in the state of Nevada. The Valley of Fire National State Park is located in Clark County, Nevada, just 1 hour outside of Las Vegas. The park is known mainly for its beautiful scenery, including the stunning red and pink Aztec sandstone formations you see here in the picture, the hiking trails, and the long scenic drives available throughout the park. This picture here on the slide is actually from one of the most popular hiking trails in the park. It is called the Cathedral Gorge, and this here is the end of the trail. And you can see why it's worth the hype. Those beautiful formations in the sandstone, the stripes, the red and pink coloration, all very gorgeous up against the horizon. The park itself protects 40,000 acres of land, wildlife, and plants, including some petrified trees and petroglyphs dating back more than 2,000 years, 2,000 years being the younger of the ones. I saw information for much older ones that have been found throughout the park, which I thought was very interesting. For the biotic factors in the park, though the desert isn't the first place we think of when we think of somewhere that is full of life, there are many different forms of biotic factors located within it. On this list here, we have coyotes, the creosote bush, multiple bird species, multiple lizard species, black-tailed jackrabbit, the burrow bush, the desert tortoise, several different kinds of cactus species, the desert bighorn sheep, desert marigolds, and multiple different kinds of snake species that all thrive and live throughout the park. For the abiotic factors, though they are not as visually appealing as some of the biotic factors, they are still just as important. We are going to talk about temperature, sunlight, climate, and the rock formations found within the park. Starting with the Valley of Fire animals and plants, we are going to talk about the desert bighorn sheep, which is actually Nevada's state animal. These sheep roam throughout the desert and the park, though they mostly like to stay in the higher elevations of the rock formations and mountains located throughout the park. Also, the park is home to a rare species called the desert tortoise, which is protected by state law, even though it is endangered. Because of it is endangered. And although these species of tortoise are quite friendly and willing to walk straight up to people, we are advised not to mess with them, as they are endangered. Most of the wildlife in the desert are nocturnal, which means that they sleep during the day and they are active and hunt at nighttime. They do this to thrive and survive in the desert heat with very little water access. Most of the plant life located in the desert is short root bushes and cactus species because they require very little water and very little root depth to thrive. There are a few different kinds of blooming plants that flower in the springtime, such as the desert marigold, the indigo bush, and the desert mallow, and these can be spotted all along the roads and hiking trails throughout the park. For the abiotic factors in the ecosystem, firstly we're going to talk about the temperature, and though they vary greatly between winter and summer, the winters are actually quite mild, with temperatures ranging from freezing to 75 degrees Fahrenheit, and the summers temperatures are usually exceeding 100 degrees, but have a possibility of reaching 120 degrees, which is very hot. There are very few places to find shade and shelter in the desert, which helps contribute to the very dry and arid climate that is there. There are also no natural sources of water, so no rivers, no lakes, no ponds throughout the entire desert of the park. The average annual rainfall is only 4 inches, and those 4 inches typically come in the form of a light winter storm and summer thunderstorms. I did some research over the last couple of years. There have only been 2 to 3 storms throughout the entire year that deliver all 4 inches of rain. The last couple years, they were all occurred during the summer months of June and July, so not a long time to get rainfall. And now we're going to talk about the rock formations and how they get this bright red and pink coloration to them. Those are a side effect from iron oxide, or as most of us know it, rust. And the hot, arid climate, a reaction occurs, causing them to get this beautiful striped with red and pink. As for the concerns of the park, there are not many concerns for the park, as most people just visit and they don't really mess with anything. The preservation of the wildlife and the natural beauty located in the park is the main concern that I found. The other big concern that the park really has is the preservation of life, with the very little water and other resources that are naturally available. The park had to drill a well for water in the park for the staff and visitors, but as there are no other sources of water other than the rare rain showers, it is very hard to keep things alive other than the few things that naturally live there. And here are our resources. I enjoyed this project. I think that the desert is not somewhere that most people think of as interesting, as it's very dry and quiet, but learning about the national parks that protect it was an interesting experience for me. So there's the end of my project, and thank you for listening.